Alright, okay. Welcome back. Oh, that's directly in the front of the shop. We don't want that there. So as you can see, the desk is a little busy. The desk is a little chaotic at the moment. Welcome back. We are going to be doing a few things in sequence today, which is very exciting. Normally I pick one thing and I stick to it for the whole stream. We're going to be actually doing a couple different things here. Hi, library. I was just about to bring you up. I was just thinking. Library is here. We all love Library Cat. I'm actually going to shut the door completely now that Library is in here. Just so that my roommates do not have to hear me carrying on. Oh, quite so badly. Library's looking at that door like, what do you mean the door's closed? It hasn't done this in a long time. Yeah, because I've been busy. Anyway, so I've been very busy being dead. No, I haven't been dead. I've been very busy keeping my head above water over here. It's been a little dire. Uh, I am, to put it nicely, getting paid for about a third of my time lately. And so that's been rough, but I need a breather, I need a break. And I have not been coming back to stream as often as I should. So we're going to be doing a few things, as I was saying at the beginning there before I got distracted by Kitty Cat. Going to be doing a few things in sequence here. As we can see, there's the Gong Fu set. We're going to be having some oolong tea. But also you may notice tarot cards and sewing equipment. Because we're actually going to be rebinding the game that we're playing today. So this is O Patron Mine. It's by Siren Song Games. And as you can see, it's got staples in the binding. And I've been looking at that on my shelf and going, staples rust. I don't want to deal with staple rust. And turns out it's very easy to hand sew your own bindings for little zines like this. And so that's one of the things we're going to be doing today. So while we work on rebinding this here, we're going to set the tea set up off the top of frame here and have the water be warming things while we're, a little bit of healthy multitasking here. So we're going to take the hot water and we're going to warm up our tea set. Warm and rinse everything as is tradition. We're having a Lishon Oolong today, and that actually ties into the character that I am going to be making with O Patron Mine after we've rebound it. So that's very much on purpose. I could use a little more water, actually. We'll do one of those. And then I'm going to actually go set the kettle on keep warm. Maybe. Well, I'll think about it, actually. It might also actually be a great transition, little transition beat between the two things we're doing. Three things we're doing, I suppose. So as the tea set warms, up off the top of the screen it goes. We're going to real quick sew this together after we remove the staples. Where is the thing I was going to use as a little spatula for these staples? I can spatula them with my thumbnails if I can't find the thing, but I would prefer to spatula them with something a little more appropriate. Where? This. Does this still have the thing I need? This will work. So we're going to take... I had a more elegant way of spatulating these staples out of here, and cannot find it, and so we're just going to do it with a flathead screwdriver. It's a little improv, it's a little yeehaw, but it's going to work. That's the thing. Because, I'm really only spatulating this because I'm picky. It's not truly... You truly don't have to do this unless your zines are going to be sitting on a shelf for a very, very long time. So we're just going to nudge our little guy under there once. Come on, up out of there. Twice. And then thrice. Oh, my finger's directly in the way. You can't see what I'm doing. And last but not least, fourth staple here. Good enough. Get that all out of there. And then when we pull the staples out of here, you may notice as staples go, they leave 2 holes each. And what's exciting about that is you only need 1 more hole to hand sew a binding. So before I go removing these staples properly, I'm going to thread this needle so we can dive right into it. Just so we don't have to sit here. I'm actually going to go on theme for the book. This game has a very strong purple and gold celestial theme going here, and so I figure this yellow, almost golden thread fits right in. So if I can find the end of this without taking 5 million years, we can just take a little bit of thread. Just a little bit of thread. This one's there, yes. Just a little bit. I'd say maybe about this much. I was going to go about an arm's length, and if I had any extra... how's this? Is this about an arm's length? That's about an arm's length. So we're going to do about this much thread. You'll see about how much here in a moment. We've used our one use of scissors. I'm also realizing that I may or may not have forgotten to activate the music, but that's probably for the best because we're going to be hearing the character creation music for a good while here. But I don't know, as I'm working on this, maybe I should tell you all what I've been up to. Like I said, I've been doing delivered ease as I await my next job. Which has been a very, very busy process. You may have noticed that paper cuts is suffering there. It is not the only thing. There are many pieces of my day-to-day that have been strongly disturbed, but that did not work. I was hoping that I could yank all of that together and instead have unwound this a little. Luckily, through the power of piece of thread I found lying on my table, that I definitely left there by accident, we can just thread the needle that way. So let me... come on, get in there. Get in there. There we go. Just take the little loop here. Pull the thread through that loop, which is a lot easier to fit through than the eye of a needle. Ooh, oh, now I went and did it. I pulled too far and now the loop... There we go. I fixed it. Crisis averted. I thought for a minute there I had pulled too far and the loop had gotten away from me. But it didn't. It didn't. We're good. Yank this through here. Come on. There we go. Nice and easy. Now that we've got this all wrangled, we're actually going to, while these staples and these clips here hold it in place, we're going to add our last hole. I definitely didn't just prick my thumb on that. On that staple, no way, nuh-uh. So we're just going to very gently, right about here, I'd say. Very gently. Oh, maybe not. Might have to use our palm thimble. That's what it's there for. Very gently, very simply, poke through our last hole in this. There we go. That was a little harder than I was expecting it to be. But now that we have this last hole in here, we can pull the thread almost all the way through. Very simple, very easy. And now is the time that we get to remove our staples. Pull the staples 1, set that off to the side. I'm going to set that there, actually, 2. And then it's very simple. We just sew through and it's all good. So coming up from the back here, first hole. I'm hoping that the... Oh no, that's not good. That means the clips have not kept everything aligned. Oh, that'd be why as we see the one clip fly off. Well, shoot, this just got much, much more difficult. That's not good. That's in fact bad. Oh, whew, whew, needle threaded. Literally, in this case. We're just gonna, oh, What did we just learn? What did we just learn together there? We learned that we need to hold that piece of thread down so it doesn't run away. Or at least be careful pulling. Well, that's one heck of a way to do it. But other than being horribly, horribly busy, I've been working on some Camellia stuff off camera. Like I said, the ooh, I've been organizing the notes on the world. I've been doing some research. There's a couple areas in Camellia that draw by design on some cultures that a few pieces of cultural history that I've heard here and there, uh, which the cultures themselves I actually don't know all that much about, and so that has proven very important for me to get research going for that kind of thing. I've been researching uh, the Aztec knot tying storage system, what little knowledge we actually have on that in English. I think they're called kifu, something like that. Been very interesting to research. I've been doing a lot of mending. Is that my phone? Mom, you of all people know that I am live on camera right now. Hang on, let me mute my mic. My mom sent me an email that was actually genuinely very important, and I will be looking at it after stream. But that's after stream. For now, I've been doing some research that's been very interesting. I've been doing a lot of tea, and I haven't been posting it anywhere, which is kind of a shame. You know me, I love to post things. Uh, but other than that, it's been a lot of time just doing deliveries. Like I said, I'm fairly fortunate in that I actually do get paid a minimum wage in this regard. A lot of people in a lot of places don't. So the fact that I do get one is kind of uh, what's keeping me afloat here. So if I can align all of the holes, come on, that's not aligned. There we go, that's aligned. Right in there. This would have been a heck of a lot easier with clips that would have worked. I'll tell you that much. But as you can see, we're just kind of sewing straight through here. We're just kind of coming up and down, real simple, real easy. This first piece actually is not super tight anymore. It might be a case of I have to kind of yank and pull to tighten these threads. And then that one, and then this one, and then this one. I'm trying to tighten these up as much as possible as we come into our last few holes here. But we'll come right back up through here. Nice and easy. And then back through here. Like that. And now you can see it's pretty clearly bound, right? I'll hold this up to the camera, actually, a little closer. You can see it's nicely bound. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hole binding. This first thread is a little loose, but you can see here we've got the thread leading to the needle here, and then the thread in the center. And very simply, we can just come back up and through another hole. I'm going to say this one because it was the easiest to get in and out of. And then this is when we tie the knot that holds this all together. Get that nice and tight. And then we will run this under here. And tie it up nice and easy. I believe that's how that works. Yes. And then I may not have left myself enough of a tail here to tie by hand. I might have to thread that. So I'm going to double knot this, the long end. Real easy, simple. So that one will stay put for sure. And then I'm actually going to knot this this other one with the needle, because I don't feel confident in my ability to wrangle that piece of thread by hand. But once we get this last one tied, then we can start our tea, which is very exciting. And then we can get started on our character, which character creation is the opening step of this game, believe it or not. But yeah, it's kind of hot in here. It's been very hot lately. So that's been fun to try and navigate as I'm like, I really want tea, but it's so warm. It's led to a lot of white tea and a lot of green tea, which is good because green tea's in great season right now. But we'll pick that up and put it through there. Nice and simple. Whoo, just barely. Ooh, this is. I maybe flew a little close to the sun doing it this way. You know that? This is. Come on, get. I have to. I have to essentially bend the thread between these two spaces. There we go. Whoo! Like that. Nice and easy. Definitely could not have been simpler. It definitely could have not been less difficult in any way, form, or function. Where did I set them scissors? But now that we've got it all bound up, we can just snip these two loose threads. Boop. And boop. And now, rather than being bound by some sort of staple, this is now thread bound. Look at how nice this looks. Look at how great. Look at that. Isn't that so much nicer than staples? I genuinely might. I have one or two other zine format games like this that I might do in matching thread. Sanctuary and Sentinel is the other one that immediately springs to mind. But look at how nice that is. Look at how nice and easy that was, and now it's just all bound together, nice and simply. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Here, I need to let's shift gears for the first time the stream, and we'll focus in on our at least the first serving of this tea. Beyond that, then we'll start in on character creation. Now, strictly after you bind this, you're supposed to put it under something. Sorry. This here, this needle threader that I didn't know was sitting on the table would have made that whole process even easier. Okay. So, shifting gears here, we are gonna make our first steep of this oolong tea. I've got my little mug here that gets to act as my spill bowl. Like so, now that our teaware is warm. Which I'm very excited about. Oh yeah, I've been working on some stream stuff between streams. I've been working on some YouTube stuff not just writing new things, but also working on some visuals. I'm just making sure the water didn't have any adverse smells there. So today we are having, once again, before I get into this topic, easily distracted today, we're having a Lishon Oolong that is definitely focusing properly on camera. Uh-huh. Lishon Oolong is a high mountain oolong, is what Lishon uh, roughly translates to. This is usually produced in Taiwan. They are very tightly rolled. As you can see, each of these little pearls is one leaf, and they open up beautifully. I've noted on stream multiple times that this is one of my favorite teas. You know what? Well, as much as I want to sit here and watch the leaves open, uh, that will release a bunch of their very positive, pleasant floral fragrances. But it's a very floral, very green oolong. You can kind of there are one or two other teas that I would, if I were to be making like a flight of tea that describes, how this lies on the spectrum from green to oolong to red tea. This would be one that's pretty early on in the left half of things. You can really draw the line there. Um, this one, I have lost count. Shoot. I usually let the wash steep sit for about 30 seconds. I also have a tea towel somewhere in this room to wipe up these spills here. And I don't know where it's gone. But we'll just occasionally open this guy up. See how the... Ooh, that's already very, very floral, very fragrant. Let me tilt the camera up just a smidgen so you can still kind of see me. How's that? That's better, right? Is that? No, that's not on camera. You're seeing this. That's good. Uh, but as we're sitting here, let me talk about what else I've been doing off camera other than camellia research, other than world building type stuff. I've also been working on some new visuals for the stream. It's been very interesting. I've been doing a lot of things that I don't inherently really have the skills for, so it's been a very strong learning process. Uh, oh, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Oh no, there's an ad starting. That's why. I sensed it with my brain without looking up at the screen. I detected it. It said ad starting soon and it ruined my train of thought. How very dare you. Well, if you don't want to get sucked into the Totino's realm, as it were, you have some subscription options over here on Twitch. Or you can wait around and catch it later on YouTube. Um, but I've been working on some new visual stuff. The visual aspect of things around here has been occasionally lacking with great frequency, and so that's been needing an update for a long time, and so I'm really glad. I'm glad that I am learning some new things in the process. Where is the stealth music? Because that's where our character create. Oh, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Big steez. That's also something I've been struggling with. My apologies. But it's been really interesting. I've been doing some art tests for thumbnails and for some on-stream stuff. We'll see how it comes together. But once we're out of this ad here, relatively soon even, we will enjoy our first sip of this tea and start working on character creation. But how have you all been? Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna be sitting here sniffing the lid like a weirdo fairly frequently because the thing, like a lot of oolongs, when they're being prepared in a situation like this, there's another smaller cup that you balance in this cup here, and it's intentionally done so that like all of the volatile chemicals that become aerosolized above the temperature that this oolong is steeped at, which usually is in the I would say 190s, 185, 190. There's a lot of volatile chemicals that come out of this, and so in like super traditional uh, oolong making, you have a little fragrance cup that you fill, and then you would set this smaller cup on top, this larger cup on top of it, and then flip the whole affair and sniff the little cup. So I sniff the lid to get that kind of thing, because I don't have a fragrance cup because I'm not that fancy. I am fancy, but not that fancy. So anyway, uh, I've been doing a bunch of oh my gosh, look at the sorry, I'm going to be getting distracted by this tea very frequently. I'm actually going to rotate this 90 degrees here. I'm just going to move these around a little. But I'm easily distracted by this tea because like look at how good the like I guess liquor looks here. And like I usually don't have this in a white cup, and so it's very satisfying to look at in a white cup for me because it's like, oh, you can get all this information out of it. Mm. Mm-hmm. The volatile oolong. So the volatility of oolong is actually part of why I'm making the character choices I'm making today in this game, the character we're about to start creating. Hey, wait a minute. I just realized I'm on camera and get you get to ask me for some tea if you press the right button. Hang on, I need to go grab a second cup for you all to drink from because it wouldn't do for me to have you drink from the same cup as me. That's gross. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna empty that guy off camera, and what I'm gonna do, one sec, I will be right back. We'll start the character creation music because we're about to start creating a character. Right back. Literal mere moments. It's gonna take me like half a second. Can't believe I forgot the other person's cup. How very dare I. How mean and rude can I be making tea for you guys and I didn't even include a cup? Oh. So previously, we've had the issue with Gimme Some, where we've got a lot of lurkers who don't like to click buttons. And I have, in my absence, come up with a clever plan to solve this problem. That is that every time we make a new steep here, we're gonna put it in the Gimme Some mug. And you guys can choose whether or not, just message right after. Actually, I should be able to change this from here. Essentially, if you would like to get some tea, hit the Gimme Some redeem, and if you'd prefer the averaged cup over the individualized this steep, just let me know. Aren't I clever? Aren't I sharp? So you get the other half of the opening steep here, and let's dive into this game. Let's dive into this game that we're gonna play. We're gonna be playing, as you can tell by the now playing command, we're gonna be playing a game called Oh Patron Mine by Siren's Song Games. This is by Megan Cross. It is a really great game. I actually backed it on crowdfund when I had the crowdfunding type of money around. Don't mind me, I'm just riffling through my tarot deck here because we only need the major arcana and not the minor arcana. So if I'm fast, we can start talking about our character here. So we're going to be playing a game called Oh Patron Mine. And the whole shtick of Oh Patron Mine is essentially your character goes on a small journey as they are in search of power or meaning in their life or something along that line, in hopes of finding a patron to aid them in their time of need. And we're going to be playing a brand new character that we're making up right now. And I just kind of wanted him to be inspired by... conceptually by oolong tea. As eagle-eared listeners know, we have mentioned that there is a oolong producing region in Camellia, the map up on my left-hand corner there. There is an oolong producing region in Camellia, but it previously was much larger than it is now. There was an oolong producing region in Abensis. Let me see, do I have the continent map here? You there. Oh, we only have the, oh no we don't. Hang on, let me turn off the world map and zoom in on Abensis here. So as you can see on Abensis here, above the Violet Timberlands, there are two places. There are a few places. There is this Numantian swamp that butts up to the foothills of these, the Cunning Point Mountains. I wish I could, like, point with my fingers on the picture, but you'll see what I mean if you look closely. And so in revealing that there is an oolong producing region, I knew that the Numantian swamp abutting that could be... I mean, it's interesting that there's a place full of, like, what are presumably ancient tea groves, and then there's just, like, a big swamp next to them. That's on purpose. It's because there is a dragon there, in Numantia. It is a poisonous dragon, and something about Camellia that I think I've alluded to a few times, is that dragons are a force of nature. They are powerful beings that manifest in areas with a large enough number of collected items or things, essentially. You know, in classical fiction, a dragon appears when there is a dragon amasses a large hoard of gold, you know? And I think it's very fun if we turn that on its head, and say that the hoard produces the dragon. And so, in short, this poisonous dragon actually was produced by this tea grove growing too large under the single ownership of a person. There was a very boastful rich man many, many years in the past of this world who owned this absolutely massive grove of tea trees. And lo and behold, hubris invited trouble. So I put all that out front because we're actually going to be playing a young Kragok, a dragon person, a person with draconic heritage in their past, who lives near the Numantian swamp, near the border of the Numantian swamp, in one of these few remaining oolong groves. And so, with all that lore out front, now that I've info dumped at you, let's actually play the game, shall we? Oh, Patron Mine can be played as a standalone game or as a backstory builder for another game. We're essentially, we're going to be building this character and then building their backstory, and then using them to adventure more broadly in Camellia. If you're doing a prelude for another game and already have a character created, you may skip directly to the playing the game section. So we have a loose idea of our character here. This is this volatile oolong-like Krogokt. What is their name and pronouns? As I've alluded, their pronouns are they, them. Names, honestly, I'm a little tempted to just name them after an oolong style. You know? There's actually a specific oolong that immediately springs to mind. I just need to remember the name of it, and I wrote it down because I'm very clever and very smart. Ah, yes. So one of the more popular styles of oolong is Iron Goddess oolong, and in that line, I would like to name this dragon. Essentially, in that line, I would like to have their name is Fer'rys. I will type that in the chat real quick for you, provided I can open my chat. Hi, I would like to open my channel. Give me my chat, because the keyboard's over there and that's work. So their name is Fer'rys. You know what? I like that. Oh, but we need to put a egregious fantasy apostrophe somewhere in that name. That's just how Krogokt are named in the world. Dalrex and Kyrnis previously have followed in that naming tradition, and that does extend into Camellia. I don't know if I've ever established that. Fer'rys Diller, hi, how are ya? Says Gariki. Very good. So, Fer'rys, like that. So their name's Fer'rys. Well, what 3 adjectives are we going to be using to describe Fer'rys? Asks the book. The options it immediately pitches to you are ambitious, creative, honest, studious, etc. I think volatile is a really good adjective. We've already said volatile like an oolong. I think in that same line. Sorry, I'm pouring this over here as though I don't want to spill it all over this book, but I can just move the book and pour it on screen. Brain smooth. But I would say volatile is a good adjective for Fer'rys. I would say that. I would say guarded. I think is a very good. I think guarded. Yeah, we don't have dice in the chat, believe it or not. You would think, with how many dice-based games we're playing in this world, we would have dice in the chat, but I really I don't somehow. But I'm gonna go with volatile, guarded, and in the sense of like oolong leaves are very tightly rolled. I almost want to say rather than guarded, I want to go something like I want to go with something very like tense. You know what I mean? Like he's very like they're very like volatile. They're willing to change very quickly, very suddenly, but they're also very tense about things. Like they're very tense and tense, anxious, concerned, wound tight. Wait a minute. What are you doing over there? Oh, you're adding the dice. You know what? That's a good idea. I just saw I saw a custom API call in the chat, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Nah, they're dice. They're fine. But we're gonna say volatile. We're gonna say volatile. We're gonna say tightly wound, and honestly, is it cheating to say adventurous? I mean, we've established that it feels kind of cheaty to say adventurous, but I kind of want to say that just on account of like we know. Oh, that's so good. We know that they are going to go in an adventure all over the place. So I think even though it feels kind of cheap, kind of cheaty, I'm going to say adventurous is the other adjective here. Pour you the tea first, so you get the good half. And I get the second half. What is your most noticeable physical feature? I mean, they've got dragon scales. It's kind of right there, you know. But I wouldn't say that's like that's too surprising in a place like Camellia. You know, there are a good number of Krogokt. I think what really makes him stand out is they've got green scales. I think their green scales. You know what? I like this a lot. Rather than just saying they're green scales, I think that their scales have a sort of leaf-like pattern to them. Like when they like shed a scale or something, if you were to pick it up, it would look a little bit like a tea leaf, kind of like this. You know what I mean? I like that a lot. Like it's kind of got what's the word I'm looking for here? It's got that sort of dendritic leaf-like pattern on each of the scales. What captions caught the word dendritic? That's really good, actually. But I'm impressed with your captions. How would others describe our good friend Fer'rys here? I think others would describe the options it pitches to you are ambitious, beautiful, cowardly, preoccupied. I think preoccupied is a good poll. I think, you know what, I'm gonna go with distracted, actually. I think it's very easy to get Fer'rys to focus in on something. Good tea. What is your greatest desire, or how would power help you to get it? Is the next question. Fer'rys has lived a sheltered, even sequestered life. The mostly elves. The two elves that raised Fer'rys recognize that the elvish population at large would look very unkindly upon a Krogokt with green scales such as themselves, just on account of the way the Numantian dragon kind of ruined a large section of forest alongside those tea trees, and so I think Fer'rys's greatest desire along that line, like I said, is to escape from this sequestered life. They want to see as much of the world as is possible. They've heard stories of all of the strange things happening on Avensis, and are extremely invested in seeing whether any of that's true. And obviously the power to defend oneself from trouble, to have skills that prove useful to get from one place to another, would be the easiest way for power to help Fer'rys in that regard. What are you most afraid to lose? Independence, acceptance, stability, family, memory, etc. What is Fer'rys most afraid to lose? That's a good character question. I think, that's good. I think if we're speaking intangibly, Fer'rys is very attached to their memories of things. They have a little journal, and they have a little, like, you know, they have a lot of little keepsakes here and there, where they can keep them. They treasure very strongly memories that differ from the norm, as new and pleasant experiences delight. And so I think picking from the list of things it pitches to you, I'm going to say memory. And so let's dive into the game now that we've created Fer'rys here. I really hope I didn't have to write down any of those adjectives, because that's gonna bite me if I do. This sounds good. Yeah, that's a beginning of a journey. I'll try not to let this loop too long. To begin, separate the 22 major arcana cards from a standard tarot deck, shuffle them, placing them face down. Draw 3 cards from the deck, placing them face down in front of you. They will reveal the entity you encounter, the details of your meeting, and the pact you make with them. Cards will be resolved one at a time, revealing the next card only after the prompts of the preceding card have been answered. So let's draw our first card. The Emperor. The first card dictates who. This card's prompts determine who the powerful entity is, what they look like, and how they appear to you. In addition to the card-specific prompts, answer these questions. What is their name, and how does their power manifest extend? This is much shorter of a loop than I thought it was. Never mind. We changed the music. This is so much shorter. Oh my goodness. This needs to be like a... Try this. Yes, this is much more palatable. So we've drawn the Emperor. Let me brew another cup of tea here. And we will talk about what we get out of the Emperor. I'm recording this off screen. Brain smooth. So you may notice that I'm taking this off the tray to pour, mostly because I don't want to spill all over my cards or anything. So another thing that's very interesting about Camellia in comparison to, say, your standard 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons world is that a Warlock Patron, the line between a Warlock Patron and someone you would worship as a cleric is actually more thin and porous than you'd expect. Take, for example, Quilibus. Quilibus is a death god worshipped in Dendron, but he's only really worshipped in Dendron and one or two other places as a result of people who lived in Dendron moving. And so when you're out, if you're not taking on your understanding of Quilibus from there, you instead may be able to make a Warlock Patronate out of him. And other significantly powerful natural entities like dragons, like, like these death gods, like dragons, like things that are not represented in the pantheon of Camellia, but are large natural forces, can be things that are willing to share their power. Things that have attained a significant volume of power and are willing to share that power with you are Warlock patrons, so to speak. So we'll see what the Emperor looks like here, actually. There are several options. There are several interesting options in the world that I've come up with, and there are several that I haven't finished coming up with, so we'll see how this goes. Could be very, very interesting. for me. So let's look at the Arcana here. We will head for the Emperor. Who is the Emperor? An intimidating being stands before you, a man. Face hardened with age and experience, their air of authority is tempered by an expression of detached mercy. I think if we're talking about, someone who takes on the aspect of an intimidating man, one that is used to power, one that has to dole out mercy very sparingly, I think immediately what springs to mind is actually Mercio, which is really interesting because our good friend Fer'rys here is from Obensis, and but they've been kind of sequestered from that goings on, and Mercio is actually a surprisingly recent development as far as the Pantheon goes, and so I think it'll be really interesting to have Fer'rys as patron be Mercio. Mercio, ordinarily the god of commerce, the god of money. He has a very strong stranglehold and a large cult following in, not Midrun, but the other one. Apologies, I struggle with names. Name's hard. Of course, now it won't load. Not Trouble, not Quartus, not Martyr, not Teatime, but the other one. Oh, no, it is Shroudbell. So Mercio is commonly worshipped in Shroudbell. And I think it's really interesting that we've pulled the Emperor as the patron here, because Mercio is a recent enough development that Fer'rys in their sequesterment has not heard of him. Indeed, the next question is, what do they wear? They wear a very lavish, like a very subtly lavish outfit. It is done in an older traditional style, as though flexing that they can afford artisans that can work in this older style. It is very much it is an outfit born of just a few pieces of square clothing, like square fabric, that are belted and draped over the form of this man. He sits on a throne that we've actually seen before. It is a physical throne it is a duplicate, actually, of the physical throne that is in Shroudbell itself. This music's a little cheery. Hang on. Where's the thing I want? Is this what I want? This works. Ooh, ad in progress. That's unfortunate. Well, in the meanwhile, if you would like to not see this ad, there are ways to do that. Unfortunately, Twitch does deign to run ads on my content. Let's focus in on the tea here while we're working on it here. While we're waiting for the ad to add. Actually, when this ad's done, then I'll be in the right spot. Will be at the right time to pour this tea. But this is something that I really appreciate about a patron mine. Is you pull a patron, create them with the questions: Who are they? Where do you meet them? And what do they require in exchange for power? And that really builds up how this presentation occurs to this character. But he's dressed very, very lavishly. His belt is, it's not even necessarily some of what belts these pieces of fabric onto him are not even what we traditionally call belts. They're just woven wire ropes. And they gleam and glitter they gleam and glitter in the subtle light of this place where Fer'rys meets Mercio. Attention takes hold before anyone speaks. Who breaks it and what is said? I think that Mercio actually locks eyes with Fer'rys. And Fer'rys has, I'm trying not to establish too strongly where we meet them because it is questions later, but he locks eyes with Fer'rys and there is a held breath. There's a held breath. They're in a busy establishment, let's say. And I won't detail it any farther, but they're in a busy establishment, and Mercio kind of locks eyes with Fer'rys, and he says something under his breath, and sort of makes a gesture, like a half-pointed gesture, in the direction of Fer'rys, and Fer'rys, not hearing what Mercio said, starts to approach, in hopes that they'll get him to repeat what he said. They offer you a wax-sealed letter. What do they say as they hand it to you? Okay, I like that. Let's roll that into what I was saying. Mercio makes this sort of like almost dismissive hand gesture, and a letter pelts Fer'rys in the chest, and they go, oh, and they just barely catch it between two slightly clawed fingers, and they look at it in slight confusion. And like I said, he says something like slightly incomprehensible under his breath. It's almost like, and it's interesting, as he's walking toward a private back room in this business, it's almost like the crowd does not, the group of people that are there do not see him, and he just kind of like walks through them, and they just sort of like liquid emotion around him, and it's very smooth. Where do you meet them? They stop you while you're patronizing a local business, beckoning you into a private back room. What business is this? It is a tea house. They are in, let's put them in Openshaw, actually. I like the idea that approaching them outside of Shroud Bell immediately, between that and the lack of influence over the cloistered area where Fer'rys grew up, kind of puts Mercio back down on this back foot, so to speak. And they're in a tea house in Openshaw that has a name. I think it's like the Crows something or other. I know I've mentioned Openshaw on stream. Openshaw. Inabensis, Openshaw. Oh, really? Really? Are you sure? Are you sure I haven't mentioned this? I guess I haven't. Well, never mind. We'll just make it up as we go along. This is a tea house in Openshaw that goes by the name of what do I want this to go by? Let's go by the Leaves 3. I like that. And there's like a little logo, on the sign of like a bunch of 3 tea leaves. I like that a lot, actually. I'm kind of glad of that. So, Fer'rys has gone to Openshaw, having heard that it's a place where many adventurers start their journey traditionally. And I think the music's kind of fighting me. Sorry, I just looked up at my audio meters and went, hey, wait a minute. You're kind of fighting me here. That's better. But Fer'rys, having gone to Openshaw, is trying to ply their ability to be a Mortivarid at this tea house, the Leaves 3, and gets pelted with this envelope as they are walking. You know, they've failed to convince the tea house owner that they need another Mortivarid, and then, as if offering employment, is handed this letter by Mercio. And Fer'rys does go with them immediately, as the game asks us, do we go with them immediately, or do we need convincing? Fer'rys just immediately goes with it. They're expecting this to be good. They've heard many tales of, like, adventurers being handed, you know, letters of mandate, this is your adventure, go. There was that whole affair with the kleptopsyche recently, and there were notably several adventuring parties in a tavern nearby in Openshaw who received letters from Teatime. And so Fer'rys, having heard these tales on the road as they were coming over the Cunning Point Mountains, you know, just accepts it and just walks into this back room, fumbling over people as Mercio breezes through the crowd. As though Mercio is, locked in well within his element here, which strictly he is. People are paying for things, paying for the exchange of services and goods. And so Mercio is very strongly in his element here. And so he moves freely, but Fer'rys is fumbling through crowds and mumbling excuses. But eventually he reaches this back room, and Mercio, to ensure the conversation is private, there's not even really a door to this area, this little back room, but they're sitting among a significant number of, like, cakes of tea. They're, like, balanced against things and piled in corners, and it's all very haphazard, and there's little amphorae full of various, like, looser leaves. And Mercio takes a seat on a throne born of crates here. And to ensure this conversation is private, Mercio simply, again, very casually flicks a finger toward this, like, velvet curtain that hangs behind them, and it stretches with a groan to completely cover the doorway, and then glints gold, having been transformed into metal for the moment. Of course, precious metal. Well, what else would it be? What do they require in exchange for power? They present you a meticulous business contract on your signature, the promise of power. You'll be resolute and grounded in any scenario, unshakable, one step ahead of those around you, for as long as you abide by every stipulation. I love games. I love games so much. I did not read this beforehand. I did not read these patron prompts beforehand, I assure you. I've been looking at it longingly on my shelf, wishing I could read them, but I wanted to come into it cold, and this is why. The Emperor is absolutely perfect for Mercio in this regard. His whole shtick is formed on contracts and the exchange of money. And so the fact that this is a contract with various stipulations is perfect. I really hope I did not fumble the mic there. The contract with various stipulations. What is the first stipulation in the contract? I think that Fer'rys looks the contract up and down, and immediately the first stipulation that sticks out to them is that is that they must always be oh, I lost my thought. No. I think that they must always be capable. Or actually, I like this better. Rather than always being capable, I think they must always be in search of... What's the word I want to say here? Like, not necessarily notoriety for Mercio, but be in search of people that would be open to this sort of to the sort of Mercian dynamic of the focus on commerce, the need to apply one's skills for ever-growing volumes of coin, that search for growth wherever it can be found, and insertion of growth where it cannot be found. Essentially acting as an evangelist for Mercio in lands that do not know of his particular power. Mercio recognizes, he's no fool, that a majority of his power is localized to Abensis, and so he wants to use Fer'rys to improve his lot a bit. The stipulation that Fer'rys attempts to negotiate is one in regards to you cannot there is no charity. There is like explicitly some notations about there is no charity if you can make a coin on using any of your many skills, especially the ones I lend you. You have to. You are required to enrich yourself at every opportunity. And I think Fer'rys pushes it back against this. Specifically noting to Mercio that a person who is constantly pinching pennies from even those who do not have it, for the lack of capability to aid those in need, will prove to make the first stipulation noted much more difficult. And hey, Gariki, could you roll a D100 for me? I just want to see if Fer'rys is successful in managing to negotiate this stipulation of the contract or not. I'm gonna enjoy the tea a little bit here. I think my water has cooled. So maybe between cards I'm gonna go activate the kettle. It won't take nearly as long as it did at the start of the stream. 42, we couldn't have done that on purpose. That's the lower half of 100. I'm gonna say that means because we're fighting for the need to keep people with lower station in regard, Mercio begrudgingly yields this term of the contract, but does not mention another way that Fer'rys is compelled to act to retain the given powers, let's say. And Fer'rys, why do you still sign despite his refusal to make any changes? I think, you know what? Let's roll into this. I think Fer'rys, I think Mercio refuses to make any changes, obviously. And Fer'rys kind of plays it off like, okay, all right, fine. I'll abide by your terms. But in a moment of, I think, particular cleverness, there is a Fer'rys hears distantly in the room behind him, someone is fighting with the barkeep over the tab, and that interruption in commerce forces Mercio's perception to dull just enough for Fer'rys to scribble a little change into the contract to remove that given stipulation, and Mercio does not catch it initially before Fer'rys signs, and after Fer'rys signs, the contract is binding. And so Fer'rys accepts these capabilities despite the underhanded nature of the contract, because they know they'll need it to travel. And that's what they want, after all. Alright, give me just a sec. I am going to... Do I have a be right back text on this screen? I do not. Let's flip to the text on screen real quick. I'm going to be right back for just a moment. We're going to we're going to reheat the water. Just real quickly. Just this oolong deserves a really the best we can give it. So let's swap back here. Alright, all good. So we'll add some more water to the piece. Like so. For those curious, this is about 7 grams of this tea. So what's our second card, and what does that do? The second card dictates where. The card's prompts determine where you meet them, what is happening, and how they approach them. Oh, okay. So, I'm a fool, honka beepa. You're supposed to draw for who, draw for where, and draw for what. How can we do this? How can we reconcile this, huh? What if... I like this a lot. What if this is a series of recurring dreams? What if this is a series of recurring dreams that Fer'rys has? As Fer'rys is beginning their travels. Let's think about it this way. Fer'rys, drifts off to sleep in the, Leaves 3 tea house. Tired from their journeying. Right? And, tired from their journeying and just sort of slumps over the table for what feels like a few moments, and has this incredibly realistic dream of Mercio calling out to them in that moment, right? And then they're shaken awake by another patron of the tea house, like, whoa, you really needed this caffeine. They're kind of shaken awake and go, wow, you really needed the caffeine from this, huh? You're dozing off here. Had some rough travels, and Fer'rys kind of begrudgingly, oh yeah, it's been a long travel, and they have a little conversation with this person. It's been a lot of travel lately, but it's been really pleasant to see the world, And so then Fer'rys, finds lodging, I believe, finds lodging somewhere, and the dream comes again, and we meet Mercio where the chariot. Remind me what the chariot's whole spiel is. I have somewhere. Because as I remember, the chariot is like things that you cannot stop, things that are gonna get you anyway. Hang on. We've got our little interpreter here. The chariot. He is conquest on all planes of the mind and science and progress. Okay. So the chariot is sort of like the mark of someone who is conquesting. The urge to dominate dominate, whether it be people or places, and so that is expressed here in the next dream. Fer'rys rises in a place that, in his dream, rises and finds themselves in a place they've never seen. It is this absolutely massive sales floor, auction house, in which there are constantly bids going for, this particular piece, this particular person's femur bone, they had a large family, etc., etc. It's like, this has really great energy to it, or, this animate hand is capable of doing these things, back and forth, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 transactions taking place in this huge auction house as sales go on. And Fer'rys wakes up and is just obliterated by the cacophony of this. What business is this? It is the auction house in Shroudbell, where everyone sells the pieces of their recently deceased family members to be used in the production of magic items and powerful objects. Fer'rys is looking around in confusion and concern, and then in one of the high boxes, his gaze is directed upward, and he sees in one of the high boxes Mercio sitting on the throne. Mercio is, as we've described him before, in a very finely woven set of essentially fabrics. They gleam with various precious materials woven throughout. There is a belt of woven gold rope at his waist. Obscured from the viewer are his left hand, and from within his face, his right eye gleams as though it is glass, for it's a replacement. These pieces of Mercio lie on the material plane, so to speak, amongst the mortals as the marks of office of the head of the Mercian cult. And so Fer'rys sees Mercio lying, essentially seated in court at the head of all of this, and Mercio locks eyes with them, and very suddenly the room blurs, and Fer'rys is found to be kneeling at the feet of Mercio. Do you go with him immediately, or do you do convincing? There is no convincing. They are just forced to go. What do they do to ensure your conversation is private? Mercio is flanked by a few guards, and there are many, many eyes on this high box as the trading goes on the floor. Mercio simply gestures a few fingers as though waving something out of his face. And the two guards that stand at his left and right sides walk out of the room, and then he extends a hand, and once again, like the velvet curtain before, the glass glimmers with a gold reflective texture, and Fer'rys can feel that they are alone. Let me switch the music once more. So what do they require in exchange for power? Actually, I lied. Let me put the music back. What do they require in exchange for power? What do they require in exchange for power? Let's answer these questions again. What is Mercio offering the second time in this second deal? They present you the meticulous business contract. Again, there's this 100+ page contract thud onto the table that suddenly appeared between them. It's bound with several thin gold and copper and what seem to be pearl ropes. and there's a thick red wax seal with an eye with a hand in the palm. And again, Mercio promises them power. You will be resolute and grounded in every scenario, unshakable, one step ahead of those around you, for as long as you abide by every one of the contract stipulations. What is the first stipulation in the contract? This time, Fer'rys ruffles the contract pages and opens to a random page, and there lies the stipulation that was edited previously, and Mercio's broad smirk gleams at Fer'rys, and with a voice like the rumbling of coins out of a jar, says, "You were very clever to have attempted to change the terms. But that wasn't the first time you're going to sign this. I require 3 signatures after all." And the camera kind of like pans up over top the contract. Has panned up over top the contract, right? And the previous amendment has been crossed out and unamended. And then the camera like sort of descends through the paper, and we see where there is one signature, there is now a second signature line, and even a third signature line beneath it, and only the first one has been signed. And the second and third signature lines say Amendment 1, Amendment 2. And the camera like back up out of the contract, and Mercio says, "Your attempt at amendment of our arrangement fascinates me. I will give you one more chance to make a stipulation I'm interested in, and we'll see if you keep it." And Fer'rys, frustrated that their clever plan did not work the first time, considers relitigating this stipulation that everything must come down to coin, but realizes that would be too obvious, too simple, and so they riffle through the contract a little bit. And what stipulation does Fer'rys attempt to negotiate this time? There is a stipulation of exclusivity, I would say. I think that Mercio, in recognizing that Fer'rys is going to be a major player in what brings his influence to other continents, he doesn't want Fer'rys, taking on any covenants to any existing deities acting in council. Actually, that's the loophole. I like that a lot. Rather than attempting to amend this, Fer'rys recognizes a loophole here, and so this is the play that will confuse Mercio and might work. Is Fer'rys recognizes a loophole in this given stipulation. It stipulates you may not enter into any other contracts for power with any known entity, whether they be deity or deal maker. I like that a lot. The phrasing deity and deal maker stands out to Fer'rys, and they recognize this doesn't include conferences. Conferences are a concept in Camellia where, due to the limited nature of the pantheon of Camellia, deities can act in concert with one another to cover areas that seem like they need obvious coverage. For example, there's not a single deity of stories in Camellia. Instead, stories are understood to be the conference of Dore, the goddess of tea, and Columnestra, the goddess of magic, in the sense of like stories naturally come together as you are sharing tea with other people. And Fer'rys recognizes this loophole, and decides not to amend anything in the contract. Mercio does not show his outward concern as Fer'rys signs a second time, and is indeed outwardly looks quite impressed at the display of power of the display of intensity of power of rulership over this partnership they're entering into by refusing an opportunity to attempt to amend the contract. And they wake up in the morning, and they wake up in the morning and are like, wow, that was odd. That's the second dream I've had of this sort with this gold-belted man. Perhaps he really is important. Perhaps these are meaningful. And then we'll draw our third card to find out about what does the final contract require from Mercio for some of his power, shall we? Oh, excuse me, stretching. Let's switch the music around, shall we? Hang on a second. Show play cue. Oh, it's just that one. Okay. So let's switch to... that's a little too tense. We monkey with the music here. This works. Next, and finally, our third card is the Empress. The Empress... Oh, I don't remember what it is. Let's look. The Empress, stately figure, seated, having rich vestments and royal aspect, is a daughter of heaven and earth. Sorry, I'm reading this really quickly. The earthly paradise, all that is symbolized by the visible house of man. There are certain aspects in which is... So essentially, this is... This is evoking the idea of, like, earthly, or I guess in this case, the material world, the natural world, even. And so I like the idea of, this third dream. Fer'rys is continuing to travel, right? And they're trying to make it to Shroudbell in hopes that someone in Shroudbell will understand this. But in the process, they make it to Quotas, let's say. Or no, would Martyr be closer? Hang on, I need to actually look at the map. Give me the not full world map, but the continent map, if you would. Zoom in. They're coming from Openshaw, so Martyr would be closer than Quotas. Okay, so they find themselves next in before the next dream comes to them. They find themselves in Martyr, and Martyr has a good number of, like, saleable goods, I'd say, but one of the most popular, obviously, is the Dust of Martyrdom. This sort of essence of a deity is very strongly powerful, and there's a lot of almost underhanded commerce going on here. And in Martyr, I think the Beleaguered Artist, let's say. Yeah. Because we know the Beleaguered Artist in Martyr. Fer'rys is attempting to ply their skill as a Mortiverde again in the Beleaguered Artist, but this is at the point where the Beleaguered Artist is a full-time tavern, and so they kind of shoo them off. And in the process, make it clear that they're not really paying the closest attention to the surroundings of their building during the day, and so Fer'rys actually sets up a little stall out of the front of the like near the beleaguered artist, right, and starts offering mortivared services, and starts taking in a good bit of coin that is not expected to be made. And so, in making enough funds, they spend a little bit of that coin at the beleaguered artist for a room, and they doze off once more, and find themselves where are they going to find themselves to meet Mercio? I think find themselves behind this stall, and Mercio approaches the stall with a jovial smile on his face, very excited that Fer'rys is going to engage in commerce. And he once again sets the contract on the table with a large thud, and gestures to the tea set in front of Fer'rys, who says, "Coin first. Coin first. I don't want you to walk off without paying." And Mercio's grin grows an inch or two, and he says, "Very good. You're learning a bit about the world even before I've helped you." And Mercio flicks Fer'rys a gold coin, and it's not of any make that matches any minted coin in the realm. It is a golden coin, die stamped with that sort of logo of Mercio, that hand with an eye in the center. And Fer'rys sort of looks at it for a moment and pockets it. And once again, what's our last what do they require in exchange for power? What is the first stipulation in the contract? What is the first stipulation? What is the first stipulation that Fer'rys sees this time? That's a good question. I'm trying to think of a third stipulation that's like really an entertaining one to play against. Here's a good one. You must be pursuing, rather than simply just pursuing gold, you must also be pursuing, rather than just pursuing coin, you must also be pursuing skills that can, new skills that can gain you more coin. You can't just simply rest on your laurels as someone who knows how to do something. And it's more legally flowery worded than that. And that's the first stipulation that jumps out at Fer'rys, is that you have to be improving yourself to improve the capability to draw coin. You have to really you have to transform the patterns of your life as any patronate or devotary would. That much is clear. But the specific devotion that Mercio is expecting is one of consistent saleable improvement. What stipulation does Fer'rys attempt to negotiate this time? First, Fer'rys checks that the lack of amendment remains the same on the previous stipulation, and indeed it does not mention conferences, and so that loophole remains intact. But the third stipulation that Fer'rys attempts to negotiate is actually adding an additional term to the contract, one that expressly notates that a lack of essentially Fer'rys is attempting to negotiate that the prosperity clause, so to speak, should not be impacted. The search for prosperity clause should not be impacted by things beyond Fer'rys's control. Certainly, the investment in markets is going to have some guaranteed. They actually say to Fer'rys, certainly the investment in markets is going to have some volume of guaranteed risk, as any market does. But I don't want to be assailed by some sort of bandit out on the road and then find myself completely without your tools for aid. And Mercio simply scoffs. His refusal to make any changes stands firm here. And Mercio simply scoffs and says, "That's too broadly worded. That's too broadly worded. I can't allow you to add it to the contract." And Fer'rys rolls their eyes and attempts to add this stipulation to the contract anyway, and signs on the line for the Third Amendment, and shocks awake in their bed at the beleaguered artist, breathing heavily at the tension of it all. And now we answer the card-specific questions. Now that we've done all of that, in addition to the card-specific prompts, answer these questions for the first card. What is their name? We've noted that Mercio's name is Mercio. Obviously, their power manifests aesthetically by the somewhat subtle affectations of wealth. You know, minting their own unique coins. Minting their own unique coins, finely made fabric from impossible materials, metallic belting, that sort of thing. What is your emotional state when you meet them? Fer'rys actually meets Mercio fairly confident, fairly flat on their feet, in recognizing that this is deal making and not devotery. Fer'rys feels fairly insulated from the larger scale problems that a deity could visit upon them. But how is that changed by the encounter? Mercio makes it very clear by the repeated try again. You're locked into this contract despite what you're locked in this contract. It will not change. This scares Fer'rys. It makes them feel like they are within the hand of the whims of fate, rather than making decisions for themselves, and it's unsettling. The third card's questions are, how readily do you accept their terms to receive their power? Of course, as we've noted, Fer'rys struggles a great deal to renegotiate, broadly unsuccessfully, only really managing to catch a few loopholes in the contract itself. What feels possible now that you have this power that never was before? Who else benefits from the use of this power? Who is hurt? And I think we answer that as Fer'rys awakes. I think the immediate benefit is clear. Fer'rys has this gold coin that was was given to them in the dream, strung around their neck on a small silver chain in a bronze locket. And immediately it feels much more possible than before to be able to breeze their way into any room, to talk anyone into any decision. and very simply, Fer'rys breezes out, settles up the tab with the keeper of the beleaguered artist, and breezes out of there, newly assured in their confidence of capability, and immediately negotiates free travel along with someone headed for Shroud Bell. Just with a simple wave of their hand, it takes almost nothing to negotiate this, and that power, that capability to control the motion of people and goods thrums in Fer'rys's veins. But who is hurt? I think Fer'rys themselves. They're immediately... there's an immediate benefit of who else, benefits here, of anyone who's nearby, caught up in the specter of this good luck, good fortune, if you will. But Fer'rys is indirectly harmed, I would say, by the lack of obstacles, the lack of need to search for ways to overcome the problem. Makes one of the contract stipulations much more difficult to makes that contract stipulation of always be improving yourself, always be chasing the next new skill that you will be able to apply somewhere, much harder to fulfill. So they're walking a very dangerous tightrope here. Once you've answered these prompts to your satisfaction, as well as the associated ones from the relevant arcana drawn, then you have one last prompt to answer, and then the game is over. Do you regret it? Yet? I don't think Fer'rys regrets it yet. Will Fer'rys regret it? Only time will tell, in seeing how they wield this power from Mercio, whether they spread the influence of this dread god of commerce throughout the world. They are bound by a goodly number of rules that most people are not. They are bound to this contract, which they did not read the full terms of, and it may bring them to a great deal of regret. But whether the journey along the way turns out to be interesting is really the important part to Fer'rys, anyway. Alright, how much water do we have left here? Oh, we got a good amount of water left. We got like 750. We got like 5 or 6 more of these. But that was Oh Patron Mine by Megan Cross. There's a lot of really great... like I said, I kind of accidentally stumbled into an alternate playstyle there. It wasn't even like a listed alternate playstyle. There are actually 2 alternate playstyles listed in the book itself. One expected to be played with a game master. If you're looking to build a backstory for a character going into another game, you can play Oh Patron Mine with that adventure's game master. Instead of answering the prompts on your own, you use them to guide a role-playing scene between you and your game master. They take on the role of the character's patron as you play out the pair's meeting and seal their pact, which really makes this a perfect tool to build out warlock backstories for, traditional fantasy-style games. Or you can play this with a single card. You can play Oh Patron Mine using only a single major arcana card. This guarantees an aesthetic through line for your prompt, but creates a more predictable experience. Simply draw a single card and use it for all 3 prompt categories. We started accidentally playing that, and then I decided to take on a more of a multiple choice, multiple aspect approach to Mercio's interactions with Fer'rys. So this was a lot of fun. This is really great. It's really beautifully laid out and designed. as you can see, like, this is a physical, like, object, and it's got very solid natural theme. It's got a very great, like, celestial purples and yellows sort of theming going on. There's these great sort of art deco frames and, like, wheels and spires going. It's really pretty. um it should be available on itch.io. Siren Song Games is available on that website. Let me just pull that up real quick. Siren Song Games. Siren Song Games is from Andover, Connecticut, I believe. Oh, this is different. This is different. No. It is this. It is Siren Song Games. They're actually currently. Oh no, this project has ended. Can I please? This is not the link I wanted. Where is the thing? I cannot seem to find the link. I know this game exists on itch. Either way, let me cut the music. So the big thing here is we've now created a character. We've created a character who's had a deal made with them. They are a patronate of Mercio, and obviously one of their goals, Fer'rys, is to explore the world of Camellia, and we're gonna try and play more solo games like this, specifically through the lens of Fer'rys exploring the world. Just to, get around and see what there is in this place. For example, there's a couple of one of the things I've been working on off camera is actually a hack of Alone Among the Stars, specifically themed around the Violet Timberlands. That's one that I would really love to send. That's one that I'd really love to send Fer'rys on. Send them on a journey to the Timberlands and see what they find in there. See if they prove capable enough to keep up with all the strangeness that occurs there. Let me bring up some other music. Let's bring back up the. How's this? No, that's not quite. This will work. This is kind of low tension. I like it. But ideally, Fer'rys, we'll be seeing a lot more of Fer'rys. Fer'rys is going to kind of be the point of view character for a lot of these things. Like I said, I'm working on an Alone Among the Stars hack for the Violet Timberlands. I've got about a third of the prompts written. Yeah, these leaves are running out of gas. That's unfortunate. Other than that, I'm working on a full solo capable system, a deck builder that's broadly inspired by a few card games I really like, and it's going to very strongly draw mechanically on the intent of what sort of, for lack of a better term, classes you're going to expect in a place like Camellia. And that would be a really good, once I get that up and running, I think it'd be really fun to test on stream. I'm still working on the playtesting for that, though. Luckily, through the power of this being a solo game, playtesting can consist of me trying to do it over and over. Keep an eye on the Discord. I might release the playtest set rules over there. what else? There was a couple other games in specific that I was like, oh yes, this would be perfect for to send Fer'rys on a journey somewhere. I think there's literally a game called Alone on a Journey that would work really well. Uh, Honestly, depending on how that, depending on how those solo game rules come up together, I'd really like to do a bunch of adventures on that. You know what? I just found the itch.io page. Ah, here we are. The page for O Patron Mine is right here in chat. Let me paste it. That's the game we played today. Megan Lynn for the win.itch.io. For the win is abbreviated. Right there in chat. That's the game we played. It's currently only $4.50. It's actively on sale. Oh, apparently, Megan, oh, Siren Song games have been downloaded 55,000 times. And to mark this milestone, everything in their shop is 55% off. So O Patron Mine is $4.50. We've played a couple of other games from this person, from this particular studio as well, I believe. Yeah, we did Sanctuary. This is also the person who did Sanctuary and Sentinel. Sentinel, for context, is $4.50 as well. There's some real good Session Zero stuff. I think I mentioned Ignite previously. Weeds in the Waste was one that I was really eyeballing. Yeah, Weeds in the Waste is a solo storytelling game about tending a garden in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. That's also on sale. Yeah, if you wanted to get Sanctuary or Sentinel on their own, they are $4.50 individually, or together $9, which really tracks. With the big, with it, I didn't know that sale was still on. To be honest with you, I heard them talking about it on Blue Sky earlier, and didn't know the sale was still going. I would heartily suggest this game. It's really great stuff. But we will be seeing more of Fer'rys. Uh, which I guess means we'll be seeing more of Mercio as well. I was really interested. Uh, it was really a stroke of luck that we managed to pull the Emperor here, because like there's so many. There's 20, 21 other major Arcana here, and it would have been very interesting. That does mean I'm a little tempted to make it so there are 21 named deal makers. There are, immediately off the top of my head, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are at least 8 named deal makers that have been mentioned either on screen or in a game that's been played in Camellia previously. So it really wouldn't take me much more to add uh, enough deal makers to be interpreted by the major arcana. I think that'd be a really fun writing exercise. That might be something I chase after. But yeah, I don't know. I've really been missing Camellia, and it's really great that now we have Fer'rys to look at. What else? Tuesdays and Wednesdays are still technically my stream days. Ideally, Tuesdays will continue to be sort of drop in indie games I found. Little little solo games that don't quite suit the theme of Camellia type things, which is a lot of what we're doing on Wednesday. It's just been so horrible busy over here of late that I was struggling to find time to stream, but hopefully no more of that. Hopefully no more. What else? I might be doing, I'm hoping to maybe do a Camellia game with a group of people now that I've got all my notes in one place. I'd love to really pick up a group for that. I've been debating. Like I said, I've been other than the Alone Among the Violet Timberlands project and the solo game rules I've been tinkering with. I've also got some straight up and down writing projects. I've been doing some writing for a few experimental video types. So keep an eye on YouTube for that. I will let you know when they drop. If you want to keep up with things other than my video stuff, Blue Sky is great for that. I have been slowly, begrudgingly remembering to post over there. I think that's it, honestly. I could carry on promoting more things, but I think I'm going to call it there. I almost said the Paper Cuts outro. Poor Paper Cuts. I hope it can come back from the Shadow Realm eventually. It's on pause. It's not dead. Um, it'll come back. It'll come back. But thank you for dropping by for some tea and some stories. Let me see if we've got anybody to raid. And while I'm looking for somebody to raid, we will run the end cards. Sound good? Sound good. See you all Tuesday for a game.